happening with the pump fake and one dribble inside to the long two, and he makes it. That's been his game his whole career. But look at him smiling. We go, my bad. The long two.
Welcome everyone to another episode of The Long Two. I am Pete Rogers. He is a subdued Natty Wallach, and we are a Camilo Stanthony podcast that occasionally talks fantasy basketball. Natty, how are you doing today?
I'm well, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, I feel a little under the weather. I am good. I do want to say we're recording this as the Nuggets are playing the Celtics on the Sunday matinee game, and we have a lot riding on this game because we split our coverage on Aaron Gordon as to whether or not he was going to be a stud or dud this week. And it's not looking good for me, Natty. I'm going to be honest with you. I needed Aaron Gordon to have like a 25 plus fantasy point game, and not happening. And there's about 6 minutes left in this game. So it's going to be 4 minutes, a tall task for Aaron Gordon to suddenly score like 20 some odd points and get me the amount of points I need in order to even the numbers back out for him to be a stud. But it seems like he will be a dud. Also, somehow even after Jason Tatum's 53 points a couple of games ago, I am still losing to you in our fantasy league, which just goes to show, man, my team is just cursed.
A lot of bad luck this year. I mean, every league is going to have people that were just,
but me especially. We can agree I have the most bad luck out of all of fantasy basketball, right?
I mean, I've loved your team since the beginning. It's just
not performing.
Not having KD is really brutal.
I know it is crippling, but I can't complain. As I said before we started recording, currently watching the Celtics on a 20-3 run against one of the best teams in the West. I will take that. All right, well, let's get talking fantasy basketball. As we do every week, we are going to cover the waiver wire and then talk some DFS studs and duds. For the waiver wire, we have 4 categories. We have our dunks. These are players 70% and under rostered on ESPN. Layups, 50% and under, and open threes, 35% and under. And then finally, our long twos, 20% and under rostered on ESPN. I will start us off this week with a dunk. My dunk this week is Celtics favorite of mine, but no longer on the team. Kelly Olynyk, 57% roster on ESPN. He has played 9 games with the Rockets since getting traded. In those games, he's averaging 17 points, 7.9 rebounds, 3 assists, and shooting 39% from 3 on 5.1 attempts. The offense and boards and low-key assist numbers. The boards and assists are a combo that you might think are easy to come by, but only 15 players in the NBA this season are giving you 7.5 boards and at least 3 assists. And they are Embiid, Giannis, Luka, the Honeypot, LeBron, Harden, Kat, Vucevic, Julius Randle, Caesar, the Brow, Sergeant Westbrook, Sabonis, Bam, the discount LaMelo Ball, Ben Simmons, and Mason Plumlee. So that boards and assists is not a normal combo.
Big Mace.
Yeah, Big Mace getting it done. So the boards and assists, not a normal combo, and getting that on your fantasy squad is a must.
Yeah, Kelly Olynyk is great. He's been sort of a fan favorite every team he goes to, and it seems like they're just playing him, like there's a dearth of players in Houston, and you got to play who you got. And I'm liking who they have. Actually, we've talked about Jason Tate a lot on this show. Christian Wood is a big fave. It's not the best thing for a Houston fan. You started out the season with James Harden, and now you have Kelly Olynyk, and you don't have Victor Oladipo. But this is a great fantasy player to have for the stretch run. There's 1 or 2 weeks left for most leagues, and ride him while you can.
Yeah. And he's a guy too. We talked a lot about the Rockets where you said this, they're playing the guys who are hot. Kelly Olynyk's getting a lot of run time there. He's shooting well. He seems like a clear guy to just roster and ride it for as much as it's worth. Natty, who's your dunk this week?
My dunk is another person we've spoken of recently, Mr. Miles Bridges.
Did you see that dunk he put on
Yeah.
Clint Capella?
He's just sensational.
Oh my
he's
God.
so much fun to watch. Yeah, he's
Yes.
great. He's 67% rostered. He is number 79 on the player rater over the past month. Since March 1st, he's fourth in minutes per game for Charlotte. Over the last 10 games, he's 30 plus minutes per game, 12 plus points, 6 plus boards, over a dime, 1 block per game, 4 plus 3-point attempts on 43% shooting from outside, and 51 from the floor overall. Those are, like 12 and 6, like Miles Turner stats, with fewer blocks and more 3-pointers made. And Miles Turner is 97% rostered. Miles Bridges has safe minutes and safe shots because people keep falling off that team. And he's just such a dynamic player. It would be a shame for them to play him any less anyway. So Charlotte's, trying to stick to the 4th seed in the East, and they have to play who they have. And Bridges has been definitely better than Washington over the last month. So I think he's a safe bet, and you can get him in a bunch of leagues.
Yes, he is 100%. Like, we talked about him on last week's show, and if he is still available on your roster this week, he is a must add in my opinion, because of the fact locked in starter minutes. Like, he's averaging 30 plus. I mean, what is he averaging over the last 4 games? 34 minutes a game over the last 3, seen at least 10 attempts per game. Like, the offense is there. The rebounds are there. He's getting you assists too, which is always saucy. And we talked about this when we were talking about him last week. It's like, you also just like want to root for guys on your team. And he is a great guy to root for because he does crazy, absurd shit on the court in terms of dunking and alley-oops and all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of fun to be able to like root for that and enjoy watching him put Clint Capella on an absolute poster and be like, yes. And that got me points for my fantasy team.
There's also the issue of volume. Like I said, we're either a week or 2 weeks away from playoffs for most teams. Before Sunday's games, there were only 6 teams in the NBA who had played either 50 or 51 total games this year. So they have the most games left to play, only 6. The Spurs and the Grizzlies both had 50, but they both played today. So they have 21 games left. The Pacers, the Mavs, the Bulls, and Charlotte each have 20. So these are the 6 teams with the most volume remaining. All 6 of them are still in the playoff hunt. So it's not like anyone's going to get rested. So with Bridges, like, these 6 teams have safe minutes for the guys that they need to play in order to improve their standing before the playoffs. So I think these are safe minutes for all the teams involved.
Yeah. 100%. All right. My layup for this week, a guy who is 50% and under rostered on ESPN. He is right at that 50% marker. He is a super sexy name this week because he had a monster game last night, but that is Gary Trent Jr. He started all 9 games since getting traded to Toronto, averaging 17.9 points, shooting 45% from the field, 41 from 3. Obviously, coming off of a 44-point game where he went 17 for 19, which is just absolutely bonkers. I'm also putting good vibes out there because in my other league, I dropped John Wall for Gary Trent Jr. just before John Wall came back. Like, literally, John Wall had been out for like 7 games. I was like, I can't handle this anymore. I need some production on my roster. So I drop him. Gary Trent Jr., John Wall comes back instantly and drops like 30 in each of his last few games, which is, just terrific for me. But
he won't play nearly as much as Gary.
Exactly.
Trent, total minutes.
He's going to get injured at some point again. But Gary
or
Trent
just rest. Like, what do they care?
But Gary Trent Jr. has come out and said that he feels loved in Toronto, which is something I guess he didn't feel in Portland. Nevertheless, like, things seem to be clicking for him. Obviously, he's not going to put up those kinds of numbers with regularity, but still, the offense and the scoring efficiency that he has displayed throughout his career, and specifically when entering Toronto, and that team has been so injured too in the backcourt that his minutes are pretty locked in. His role's pretty locked in. He's going to be a guy who I think is going to, he's going to get you top 100 production pretty easily from here on out.
And Toronto needs to play him because they need to find out what they have.
Right, exactly.
And how he fits. And, they're still in the playoff hunt. They are in the 11th seed right now. They're a game behind Chicago. There's no reason to think that he won't get as much run as they can possibly give him over the next couple of weeks, especially because even though Lowry and Van Vliet should be coming back soon, are you going to run them into the ground? You're going to try to play them as much as you can, but I still think that his minutes, Gary Trent Jr.'s, should be up.
Yeah. Who is your layup for this week?
My layup is a guy that we continue to talk about, and I will continue to push because he is a top 40 player over the past month. Mr. Derek White, who's 46% owned on the Spurs. He's a top 50 player, and he's under 50% owned over the past month. Like, it's been a while. He's third in minutes per game over the past month, third in shots. He's an absolute starter with safe minutes for the Spurs. Again, a team with a bunch of games left and a team that's trying to make the playoffs. Over the past month, Derek White's averaged 16 plus points per game, 3 plus boards, 3 plus dimes, 1 plus block for a guard, which we've said before is super nice.
We talked to you about, love that.
And 2 plus 3-pointers made. His ratios haven't been great this year, but he was coming back from being out for a while, and they should improve. His usage is the highest of his career. And I just want to point out that on the season, only 4 people averaged 3 plus boards, 3 plus dimes, 1 plus block, and a 3-pointer made per game. It's Embiid, Giannis, Durant, and Big Cat. And like we said last week or 2 weeks ago, those are, enormous dudes. Derek White is 6'4". The blocks and the perimeter shooting and the minutes are really a combination that you should be 80% owned, I think.
Yes, totally.
I mean, he's a top 50 player over the past month, which is going to help a ton of teams get into the playoffs. He started off really slow, like I said, but he's raring to go right now. And if he's available, you should absolutely pick him up.
Yeah. And the thing is and like when we talk about guys like Derek White, who's a guard who gets you blocks, or when I talk about Kelly Olynyk, who is a big who gets you, assists to go with rebounds. The beauty of having those guys on your fantasy team is that it then frees up positions that you're traditionally looking for those numbers to come from, to not have to find guys that fill that role. So like if you have a guy like Derek White at a guard or forward position for you, then if you're looking for a power forward or a center or a big who off of waivers, you can find a guy who exclusively gets you offense or exclusively gets you rebounds, like an Enes Kanter, who's not going to get you defense. He's not available, obviously, because he put up 30 rebounds.
30 boards.
Night. Jesus Christ,
against
Enes Kanter.
Detroit.
My God.
Great job.
But like a guy like that who is going to get you boards and points, but not anything defensively numbers, but you're not worried about that because you have someone like Derek White, who you're still getting that defensive production on your team overall, just not from a position that you're traditionally looking for it from. It just allows a lot more flexibility with how you structure your team and the kind of players who you can get on your roster without sacrificing different stat categories.
And D. White is so young. There's no real reason to think that the blocks won't continue for the foreseeable future. So I feel like he's a strong dynasty play as well. And you're exactly right. Like, you're trying to fill up stat cats wherever you can, but it makes things easier for you as a team if you can fill some of those categories with outside of the usual positions.
Yeah, 100% agree. Quick life update. The Boston Celtics have beaten the Denver Nuggets 105-87. The Celtics trailed by 14 points and then went on a 31-3 run. In order to,
without threes, really.
In order to win, yes, and with absolutely no 3-point shot. All right, my open 3 for this week. It's you love this guy. It is Thomas Satoransky for the Chicago Bulls. 27% rostered. In April, he is averaging 9 points, 3.2 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1.4 steals per game, shooting 57% from the field and 46% from 3. Just 2.6 attempts, but that's a good efficiency from downtown. His scoring isn't the sexiest thing in the world, but you can't tell me your fantasy team can't use assists.
Fact.
Again, the 7 assists, like that number, you're like, wow, is that really that great? Only 15 players in the NBA are averaging more than 7 assists this season. So I could promise you, every single one of those players are on your fantasy on a fantasy team right now. So being able to get a guy who is giving you top 15 production in assists in the assist category over is, in this month, you love to get that. You're going to roster that. 27% rostered. He is wildly available and wildly should be on your roster.
And they're playing him. I mean, the Bulls are 3-7 over their last 10, and they're in the 10th seed currently. But it's all hands on deck. They're trying to make the playoffs. They just made that big trade for Vooch. Sato has always been solid. It's just that he doesn't get run, and so the dimes, like you said, are hella valuable for this time of year, and there are other guards out there you can keep your eye on for dimes, like Rajon Rondo will be playing for the Clippers. Killian Hayes came back for the Pistons. Cole Anthony came back for the Magic. So there are probably dimes out there, but those guys probably aren't going to get the minutes that Tomas Satoransky will. So he seems like a safe guy again, which is great for the playoffs, especially if you can't do ad drops if you're in one of those strict leagues. So yeah, absolutely keep your eye on him. And at this point, I don't think we should really be surprised by what he can do. So long as he gets the minutes, he'll give you the stats.
Yeah, 100%. Who's your open 3 for this week?
My open 3 is a traditional 3-and-D guy. He is number 99.
How fitting.
And we've talked about him before. Saddiq Bey, number 99 over the past month on the player rater, 14% rostered, so very available. He's second in minutes per game, third in shots on the Pistons, averaging 13, 4, and 1 over the past 30 days, which isn't sexy, but again, he gives you top 100 value at under 20% roster cost. He's averaging 6+ 3-point attempts on the season with a 37% average. Of all the players who take 6+ 3-point attempts, which is 55 in the NBA, only 12 also shoot better than 37% and have an 87% free throw percentage, which is Saddiq Bey's. Those 12 players are Curry, Dame, Fred VanVleet, Tatum, PG-13, Kyrie, Kyle Lowry, Patty Mills, of course, B.I. Brandon Ingram, Big Cat, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Saddiq Bey. He's a rookie.
Seems good.
He's a rookie. He's obviously the youngest of that group at 22. This is a guy you can own for the next 10 years. He's he's only going to get better at doing this, and the rest of these stats will fill up as he gets older. I think I liked Devin Vassell better before the draft or when it happened. But Saddiq Bey, I mean, he's one of the top 5 rookies this year. I think anybody would agree with that. And it seems like he's just doing everything that people thought he could do. Like he's not only impressing as a rookie, but you can see that there's more there. So I wouldn't say sky high potential, but an absolute solid 3D guy who's going to play for a long time, and hopefully his efficiency will improve as he goes. And he gets all the minutes and shots because Detroit is rebuilding.
Yes, exactly. And we've seen him put together really good stretches of games where he has gone on. I mean, his last 4, he's averaging what? Like, let me quickly stats and information is on it. 15
While
points.
You do that, it's just, sorry, what was it?
15.3 points over the last 4 games, shooting 48% from the field. You love it.
And when you know that a guy is good from the line, it sort of suggests that his other ratios will reach that level. So he's not going to win Rookie of the Year or anything, but I do feel like he's probably first team all rookie. I mean, at least second. Yeah. So he's just safe. He costs you nothing, and he's going to get run.
Yep. 100%. agree with that. All right. Finally, our long twos. These are guys who are rostered in 20% and under of leagues. My guy, Jalen McDaniels for the Charlotte Hornets, another Hornets player. The Charlotte Hornets benched Bismack Biyombo, and McDaniels has started in his place for the last 2 games. And in those games is averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2.5 stocks. Obviously, you do not scoff at those numbers when they are available on the waiver wire. Like, those are ridiculous numbers to be getting at 11% rostered in ESPN. He is a perfect stream candidate this week. Ride the hot hand. Who knows how long he'll be in the starting lineup. Who knows what his minutes might be down the road, but you don't care about that right now. He is so widely available that it costs you literally nothing. You throw him into your streaming spot in your roster, see what he can do for you this week, and maybe he sticks and cements a starting role and Bismack Biyombo continues to come off the bench. Whatever the Charlotte Hornets might wanting to do, Jalen McDaniels is playing way too well to not be rostered on your team at this moment.
And his brother Jaden up in Mini is, sort of starting power forward now as well. So I like both these guys.
Good in the McDaniels household. Good shit going on there.
High energy has looked great. And like we said, Charlotte has a bunch of games left and they need to play as hard as they can with the hot hand. So yeah, I definitely like this pick a lot. My long two is Talen Horton-Tucker.
Talen Horton-Tucker. Talk about this.
6'4", 20 years. He's the guy who the Lakers wouldn't trade.
He's better than Kyle Lowry. Better than Kyle Lowry is what the Lakers think.
The game yesterday against the Nets, obviously the Nets aren't at full strength and all the guards got ejected, but he still had 11 assists and he fucking looked great. I really like Talen Horton-Tucker. He sort of plays bigger than he is. Again, he's 6'4", and he's just impressive, I think. Over the last 6 games for the Lakers, he's 5th in minutes per game, 3rd in shots per game, 13 plus points, 3 plus boards, 3 plus assists, 2 steals per game, obviously really nice, and 2 threes, 46% from outside. This is what I like the most, though. On the season, Talen Horton-Tucker is averaging 8 plus drives per game with a 50% field goal percentage on those drives.
You love that.
And over the last 6, he's 14 plus drives per game for the Lakers. LBJ and AD are, quote unquote, coming back soon, but it seems like it's going to be 2 weeks. So if Talen Horton-Tucker can keep this up, then the Lakers are going to have to play him because they are in competition to remain in the 4th or 5th seed. It seems like the Clippers are up 3 games on them for the 3rd. And if LBJ and AD don't come back anytime soon, then I think the top of the West will be Utah, Phoenix, and Clippers.
Yeah.
Then there's Denver, who just lost today. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he did. I was just going to say that for him too, the minutes aren't anything that you're worrying about because he's only started once for the Lakers. He just started the last game against Brooklyn. That's where he got 34 minutes and did all of his damage, 14 points, 11 assists. But outside of that, it has been off the bench. It has been a clear, distinct role. And yes, his minutes have gone up slightly with LeBron and AD out, but he's a great guy to roster on your fantasy team because you're not necessarily worried. He is going to be integral to the Lakers' success moving forward with LeBron and AD out, but also is in a rare position where when LeBron and AD, if they come back during the regular season, during the fantasy season, he's suddenly not going to become a non-factor because we've seen him in that role and he's still contributed. The Lakers, especially LeBron seems super high on this kid. And when LeBron is super high on you, you will get playing time. And so that's has shown throughout this season. And so the fact that he is playing well when he's gotten a larger workload and is a larger part of the team, awesome. But we've also seen that when he is role player coming off of the bench along LeBron and AD, that he still gets you decent fantasy production. So I think he is a really good guy for you to be rostering without too much worry about ooh, eventually I'm going to need to make sure I like remember to drop him, because even if LeBron and AD come back, which who knows, maybe they will if push really comes to shove, like if they are possibly not even making the play-in game, but I don't think that that's going to happen. And so,
I mean,
so
they'd have to crater. They've basically stayed like
I think
at
they're
500. Fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting Drum was a serious coup for them.
Yeah. No,
and
that was a good addition.
I mean, he just, he looked great against the Nets, but again, that's against the Nets. There is a defined role for Talen. The Lakers did not trade him.
Yep.
Like, this is, we believe in you. You are part of the future. I think you could make a pretty good argument that you'd rather have him than Kyle Kuzma going forward. And when Kuzma isn't getting as many minutes, or if he sits out, then I think those minutes and shots go to Talen Horton-Tucker, and he costs you nothing. So yeah, give it a shot.
100% agree. Do you have any from the logo guys?
I don't. Just again, like, everyone pay attention or keep your eye out for Rondo, especially, and Cole Anthony. I guess Boogie too if you want, but Rondo's a guy that can easily get you 10 dimes when Kawhi and PG are playing as well. And with Pat Beverly out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think Rondo will be playing a lot.
Totally. No, I think Rondo's a very good guy to, maybe you're not adding him right now, but you're certainly paying attention to him. Let us take a quick ad break. All right, let's move on to studs and duds then. This is where both Natty and I pick a player who we think will perform above average in fantasy this coming week, and one who will underperform. Like I said at the start of the show, Aaron Gordon did not do what I needed him to do against the Celtics in order to for me to get the win between our Aaron Gordon stud or dud battle. It is tough, but the Celtics got the win, so I'm all right with that.
Look on the bright side.
That's that's what I have to do. Natty 2-0 again this week. Well done, sir. Aaron Gordon as your dud was a great call. Gary Trent Jr. as your stud was great. That worked out because he put up 52 points last night. Had -8 the night before that, and yet he got you a net positive.
He knew.
He was like, "Oh shit, I gotta throw in work right now in order to make sure Natty gets this win." So you are sitting at 12-6. I went 1-1, but I was right about Ja having a down week. So I will take ballsy points for that one. 11-7 on the year. Natty has, after a very slow start and one where I jumped out to a massive lead, Natty has finally caught up with me and has taken the lead. This is some stunning turn of events. Who's your stud for this week, Natty?
My stud, this might be stunning as well, is Kevon Looney.
Oh my God.
Kevon Looney is my stud. This is going to
work out for you, and I'm going to be pissed as all hell.
Because James Wiseman looks like he's out for the year.
Yeah, that looked like a really awkward landing.
It looked bad. He tore his meniscus. Yeah. So Looney is the last big standing in Golden State. They're going to have to play him. I think, like, bright side optimistic. He's a double-double waiting to happen if you give him the minutes. Golden State's in a weird situation. They're currently in the 10th seed. They're 3-7 over their last 10. I mean, even if they play Steph and everybody as much as they can, like, they still might fall out. But you can't play without a center, or at least somebody taking those minutes. So I think Wiseman's minutes go to Looney, and I think that all of his stats will be up over the next rest of the season, I suppose, since there's nobody else.
Yeah, and you've got a perfect position where Javon Looney doesn't have a real high average that he needs to surpass. So
right, exactly. And he's only 1% rostered. But also, they play Denver, the Thunder, Cleveland, and Boston. So, like Denver, that's not a great defensive center matchup, and maybe they'll try to run a lot. OKC has a young front court. Cleveland is Jared Allen, so that's rough. And Boston has the Time Lord, obviously. But there's no one else. Yeah. So I think by default, a technicality, that's what I'm going with this week. Let's go Looney.
I like it. Because the Celtics are playing the Warriors and playing the Trailblazers, and then they are playing the Lakers, but I'm willing to accept this.
mean, Drum isn't some elite defensive center.
Well, I'm not going center. I am going with my boy Marcus Smart.
Oh, sure. Nice.
Going to be my stud. He's been playing extremely well recently.
Yeah.
And I think that continues going up against the Trailblazers, Lakers, and Warriors. Like I said, I don't see a lot of defense there. I think it's going to be all those games are going to be. The Celtics are a rare team that mount a comeback down 17 to beat the Nuggets shortly after it takes Tatum dropping 53 and going into overtime to beat the Timberwolves. So who knows what this team is, but you certainly can bet that they're going to play exciting, very close, and probably high-scoring games, which lends itself to good fantasy production from their guard position. My dud for this week is also on the Lakers. We're just sticking with two teams here. Montrezl Harrell, I'm going to say, he's playing the Knicks, the Hornets, the Celtics, and the Jazz. Obviously, anytime any big man goes up against Rudy Gobert, I will take that matchup as a dud. And then the Knicks, obviously their defense has been great this year. The Hornets, been solid. And then the Celtics, I just think that with the addition of Drummond, Montrezl Harrell is going to maybe have a lesser fantasy production week than you were anticipating. Who's your dud?
My dud is my boyfriend, PJ Washington.
Ooh,
not just because of the footsteps he hears from Jalen McDaniel, but Charlotte plays the Lakers, the Cavs, the Nets, and the Blazers. The Nets have kind of a rougher front court than they had before. The revamped Blake and LMA and, DA is still there. And KD is back. So I think that it's a little bit tougher to play the Nets now than it was just a couple of weeks ago. And PJ just hasn't looked great recently. And so, they can't really afford to have a slump from one of their key figures. So, I wonder if maybe they'll play him just a little bit less or maybe give him a game off or something. But I think he's my dud for the week.
Yep. I like that call. He had a game a couple weeks ago where he just did put up a big fat 0. So I think
super young,
Yep.
and a lot is being asked of that team this year. But it's all upward trajectory. I mean, they should be in the playoffs going forward,
Yeah, the future does look good for them.
They're in the 4th seed right now, I think. Yeah.
They are. All right, before we go, Natty, time for you to say more shit. You have anything left to leave us with before we depart?
I am just curious about two teams.
Hit me.
The Bulls, like I said before, 3-7 over their last 10 games, and the Spurs are 2-8. There's both of those teams, I think, are better than a lot of other teams, especially in the East, but both of them could also fall out. So I am curious to see if they can rebound from these bad couple of weeks, especially the Bulls.
Yeah,
if they don't.
If the Bulls fall out after the Vucevic trade, that was very much like, hey, we are trying to put a team around Zach LaVine. Like, we are going to build you a contender, Zach LaVine, or we're going to build you a playoff team so that you stick around. Like, it would be pretty rough if they're already struggling. It would be pretty rough if they then ultimately fell out. The Spurs, I feel less anxious about. The Bulls, I totally agree with you. That would be a big blow to them if they kept the losing streak.
Also, I think it's sort of embarrassing. Chicago should be a playoff team this year. If Zach LaVine's actually as good as we've been saying, and if Vooch is actually as good, the Bulls haven't gotten the production that they wanted from Markkanen and from Wendell. They shipped Wendell out, and the finisher has good games, and then it looks like he's just not there at all. But you are in a position to be a playoff team. When the season started, you're still in a position to be you should be a playoff team.
Yeah.
So I think the Bulls are going to try real hard over the next little while to improve their standing and just make sure that they don't get embarrassed in front of everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree with that. You would hate,
but it's great. I hope they don't make it. Fuck them. Go Pistons.
Natty taking sympathy for the Bulls for all of 1 minute, and then his true Pistons fandom kicks in, which, rightfully so. I'm impressed that you were able to conjure a minute of sympathy for them. Well done.
But I do think that the play-in games will be interesting this year. I think they'll, let's say the Warriors are in a play-in game. That's one game where Steph Curry can be like, I'm the MVP, and could have an incredible game. If the Pelicans make it in, you get Point Zion. If the Spurs don't make it, then that's like, well, now a boring team isn't in the playoffs. So I agree with you on that front. People probably don't care as much, but the play-in games should be pretty fun this year. I think those are here to stay.
Yeah, no, I think they're great entertainment, and they seemingly lead to great basketball. All right, well, make sure you subscribe to the Fake Teams podcast wherever you get your podcasts: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. That's how you'll not only get us, but also our fantasy baseball and fantasy football shows. Fantasy baseball, you know it if you've been playing it. We're full week in, and we have all kinds of good stuff on both podcast and faketeams.com. So make sure you check that out. Follow us on Twitter at The Long 2 Podcast. Natty, until next week, stay safe and get healthy, my friend.
Thank you very much. You remain healthy, and
I will.
Good luck to your green team over the next week. Let's go Marcus Smart.
Yes, kindly.